Hello, everyone. All right. Okay. Let's see who all's here and get things rolling. First of all, I'm going to start rolling the across and comments. All right. So, first one in was Walt Rogers, followed by Crew 1351, and just us chatting back and forth. And of course, Crew points out the big thing, which we all do when YouTube puts the ad above the chat and pushes the chat down so you can't make comments or read the most common current stuff coming in. It's utterly stupid and asinine. All right, and let's see what we got here. We have and we got a couple lurkers because I can tell because of the number right up there of how many people are looking at it. So, all right, let's move things around here. Let's see, I got to bring that forward. There we go, and move up to here. All right, so we're picking up here. Where we left off yesterday. And let me get this thing here. And get that taken. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Oh, I'm just watching the way the numbers are bouncing up and down there. Because I know for a fact that there are 3 people that are watching the entire time. That being Walt Rogers, Crew 1351, and myself watching over here. And the number just went down to 2. It's like, wait a minute, everybody else is still here. Why is it doing that? But then we got a couple more just came in. So, guys, if you are just joining us, please, working's fine, but please check in and say hi and hit the thumbs up. And then we'll get back here to the storyline. Oh, and you may hear some boys in the background. The 2 youngest spent the night last night, and they're going to be here for most of the day as well. Alrighty, so let's pick it up here. The Stanton clan members were out checking their solar panels and generators to see what, if any, damage it's sustained from the ash and the earthquakes. Earthquakes so far. Yeah. 2 of the cabins had horizontal helical wind turbines on their roof peaks. The cabins were built facing down the valley, and because of the constant breeze that came up the valley, the turbines were almost always turning at a decent speed. This was helped out by the breeze compressing against the slope of the roof and being able to provide more pressure to the turbines, thereby producing more power. There were 3 vertical wind turbines by the other cabins. The other cabins had been built more against the side of the valley with the roof sloped the wrong way to provide the horizontal helical wind turbines on them. So the Stantons decided on the vertical turbines for those cabins. And for those of you who don't know what those are, there's kind of like it looks like a DNA helix turn on it. Well, the horizontal ones sit on top of the roof, and so as the wind blows up the roof, it causes it to turn more. But the other cabins are turned sideways, so the wind coming up the valley would come at an area at a direction which wouldn't blow. So, all right. All of the photoelectric panels were currently locked in a vertical storage position, 5 degrees beyond, protect them from the gritty ash that was blowing in from the west. The water generator that Grandpa Jack had installed years before had been taken offline, secured for storage and use as backup if the new generator ever broke. The new water turbine generator they had been able to install before they reprioritized their budget to food and other essentials survival items was working properly. However, with the amount of ash falling, they decided that it was best to shut it down and save it for later use. So the intake was closed off to prevent the water carrying ash from entering it. Prevent the water. Hang on, I need to change up the wording on that one there a little bit here. That the water okay, so the intake was closed off to prevent water carrying the ash from entering the system, SY, the system, and damaging the turbine blades and housing. That sounds a little bit better. With either of these damaged, the efficiency of the unit would drop. With either of these damaged, the efficiency of the unit would drop significantly and make the generator almost useless. Ronald pulled the caravan over in Winnemucca to check out the Walmart Supercenter there. Amazingly, they had power and were open for business. Michelle, Jody, and Kim went inside to get Natalie and Judy some clothes and shoes. After hang on, I need to change this up. To get them some clothes and shoes. After 20 minutes, Ronald was getting concerned, was about ready to call him on their cell phone when they came back out of the store. Okay, that's a short time for 3 carts. Let me make that 35 minutes. When we came out of the store, pushing 2 shopping carts of of clothing and 1 of snack food. All right. All right. As they got near, Michelle called out, "They're going to need winter clothing as well as some summer outfits." Ronald nodded in agreement, and he gave her a thumbs up and gave her a thumbs up sign. And turned to usher everyone back to the vehicle so they get underway as soon as the new booty was packed away. And the women were loaded up. On the way out of Winnemucca, Ronald saw that the sign for the New Holland dealership was lit up, so he radioed that they were stopping for some more equipment. When he and Jack went inside, they found out the dealership was operating on generator power. After talking with the service manager about what they needed and the type of engines they had, he set them up with all the parts they needed to adapt various air filter systems to their vehicles. They also got 4 extra cartridges for each system. Hang on a second. I need to clarify some stuff here. to complete the various to complete the various on their vehicles. Very happy with what they got, the price they had to pay. They loaded up the parts into the vehicles, loaded up the parts into the vehicles the parts were for, and started out on the road again. Kim estimated they lost an hour and 15 minutes with all the shopping. Ronald said that he thought it was well worth it for what they got. As they're about to pull out and head up U.S. Route 95, Jody called out on the radio for Ronald to stop. What's wrong? He asked, a bit concerned because she hadn't sounded worried before they loaded up. I just heard on the ham radio there are multiple reports of ash falling up in Oregon from Jerome and Jordan Valley. On U.S. Route 9, hang on here, U.S. Route 95, that down here. All of those are on our route. Okay, there we go. That sounds a little better, I think. Let me do it aloud and see if it sounds as good. I just heard on the ham radio that there are multiple reports of ash falling up in Oregon from Jerome and Jordan Valley on U.S. Route 95. The Boise area is really getting hit with the ash snow. With the ash snow, as they are calling it. All of these are on our route, and I really think we need to go to Plan B, she said in a hurry. Are you positive? Ronald asked as he asked as supportively as he could. Sure I am. The reports from Boise have been getting worse over the last 10 minutes. But I thought we could make it. But now that 80 miles of the highway before Boise is getting ashed on, I don't think we can make it that way. I think you're right about ash problems, but I think we can make it now that we have the air filter systems. Ronald, Jack here. Go ahead, Jack. We don't want to go through Boise if it's getting a lot of ash falling on it. We may be, hang on here. We emphasize may be able to drive in it, but there'll be a lot of dummies that will try to drive in the ash without adding extra protection for their engines. By the time we get up, hang on, get there, they will be broken down all over the highway, and they will and they will have it blocked in a lot of places. We'll be trapped in the backup behind the broken down cars. I'm sure glad you came along. Delete. Come on. Ronald said, Plan B it is. I'm glad you let me. Jack replied, Guys, Ken bedded in. We need to go now fast. I see ash or snow falling behind me. Okay, let's turn left and head east on I-80 to Wells and then north on U.S. Route 93. Becky spotted the news feeds from Boise say that the city was getting a lot of ash snow right now. That concerned her so much that she had her younger brother, Tom, go tell Grandpa Jack. Then she started taking notes on everything she found out about the ash fall and where it was falling the hardest. She wished the internet would stay up. Radio stations were also cutting in and out as well. As they headed north, there we go. Trying to stay awake. Grandkids kept me up last night. As they headed north on 93, about 20 minutes from Wells, they began to encounter ash on the roadway. Ronald had everyone pull off the highway where a section of old US 93 paralleled the current highway as a frontage road. Working quickly as they could, they modified the vehicle's air intakes with the filters and dust bowls that they had picked up in Winnemucca. And Winnemucca and Fernley. With lots of duct tape and a little bit of cussing, they were able to get all the vehicles outfitted with modified dust bowls and heavy duty air filters in less than an hour, and we're on the road again. The radio came to life with Jack's voice as they neared the Idaho border. The town of Jackpot is just a couple miles ahead. They enforce the speed limit very strictly, so keep it just under it. We don't want to get into a confrontation with the locals. Thank you for the heads up, Jack, Ronald replied. Did everyone get a copy on that? Copy that, Lee answered. Copy, Ken replied. Jack was right about things being tight in Jackpot. Hang on a second here. I left my water bottle in there. I need to get some water, so I'll be right back. Hang on. Yeah. Got my water bottle. I don't want to drink just energy juice. There we go. Yeah, Jack was right about things being tight in Jackpot. Ronald led them into town doing 3 miles an hour under the posted speed limit. As his radar detector started whining, as soon as he crested the last little rise before the city limits. Kim keyed up her throat mic. Watch your speed. We have radar. Copy that, Lee responded. Copy. Ken acknowledge. Copy. Hang on, I'm going to switch this around here a little bit. Change that to a capital T. Jack added, they usually have one county sheriff SUV and 2 city safety cars down by the Cactus Pete's where the signal is. I swear they have it on remote control to change it as you get close. Well, it looks like the signal isn't working, so we better treat it as a 4-way stop sign. Ronald informed everyone, make sure you come to a complete stop, then look both ways before continuing. We don't want to give them an excuse to try to pull us over. And get your guns out of sight, Jody chimed in. Good point, Ronald agreed. Keep them down out of sight, but easily accessible. As Ronald stopped at the powerless signal and looked right and left twice, he noticed the patrol car sitting in front of Cactus Pete's facing the signal with one safety officer in it and a county sheriff SUV back in front of the back in front. Hang on here. On the other side of the highway. There we go. All right, yeah. So, Cactus sitting in front of Cactus Pete's facing the signal with one safety officer in it and a county sheriff SUV in front of the Horseshoe Hotel and Casino on the other side of the highway. The safety officer was staring at the beast with a huge snowplow on the front with a puzzled expression on his face. When Kim gave him a stern nod and held up 4 fingers, the universal signs for cops of Code 4, which means no assistance needed. The officer blinked and nodded back and gave her a wave with his index finger. One after another, they stopped at the powerless signal and proceeded through this small town of Jackpot, Nevada. Heading up the incline out of town, they passed the sign, welcome to Idaho. Welcome to Idaho, everyone, Jack said happily. We're now in an open carry state. What? Ronald exclaimed. Idaho is an open carry state? Yes, it is. All right. Yes, it is. I should have planned a bug out location here, Ronald grumbled and his with his throat mic still on. Well, I'm glad you didn't, Jack answered back to Ronald's grousing, because you wouldn't have still been in California to save us. Jack's comments surprised Ronald on several levels. First, that he left his throat mic on, which was a big tactical error on his part. And second, the realization that if he had done that, he would not have found Kim's long-lost sister or been able to help her adopted family. Then he also thought of the 2 girls that they rescued from the biker gang and the others they saved at the campground. Kim's adopted family had decided they were going to hunker down and hold out where they were. Hang on. I need to expound on that one here. Okay, there. We decided they were going to tried to hunker down and hold out at their vacation cabin near South Lake Tahoe until spring, and then see if they needed to or even could bug out to Idaho. I guess there are several silver linings to having been where I was and the way things happened, Ronald said, this time with his throat mic on purpose. We're grateful you were still on your mountain and found us, Lee chimed in. Me too, Kim, with a very happy smile. I'm grateful too, and I don't want to kill the mood, but how much longer do we have to go until we reach the Stantons? Ken interjected into the conversation. Ken checked the map program on the tablet mounted to the dash of the Beast. Normally it should take about 2.5 hours, but because we're avoiding the cities and large towns, I calculated it could take as long as 3 hours without having to stop for roadblocks or other such obstacles if we're lucky. Hang on, I want to check something here. I got to do a little research and pop up here on the thing here. Let's see. I got to do a little tracking, opening maps. And now I've got to do an expansion here. That's 2 hours there. And I said, how long? 2.5 hours. Yep, that's right. Okay, I did do my research properly on that. Except I need to change the route here. There we go. That route is 7 minutes longer, but it's quicker. If it's actually quicker, it's a little bit longer, but it's quicker in the long run. Let me see here. 118 miles to, so it's 11 miles longer the way they're going to go, but it's only being 11 miles longer is actually only 7 minutes longer, but it also don't have to go through some cutbacks. So for trucks, it's going to be a lot quicker. Okay, let me get back over here. There, I'm back here. All right. Let me go ahead and close that tab down. All right. Do you think we'll run into any roadblocks? Lee asked, very concerned. I don't know, Ronald replied. I wouldn't think so since we are planning. Oh, come on. Planning on using back roads once we cross the Snake. Hang on. SNA Snake RIV Snake River. And TW and Twin Falls. There we go. We might find some local farmers that have blocked a road, but I don't think that we would run into any with law enforcement officers. We must be on guard just in case. We don't know what we might run into. Like the bikers taking over a campground, Ken questioned. Exactly. Don't forget the ash. That could slow us down because of visibility and put broken down cars in our way, Jack added. Yeah, Ronald said dryly. Replied dryly. Ow. Man, my shoulder's killing me. Oh. Oh, it's getting so bad that it's not just lifting my arm up like this for my right shoulder. You know, before it was just picking up, you know. Now it's just hanging here. It hurts. And when I try to curl my arm like this, if I don't help it, that hurts too. And I'm not even moving the shoulder to do that. But it is the bicep muscle connecting up into there and tying into the other muscles that's killing me. I may need to in a little bit here grab some more ibuprofen. Becky and Dave Stanton were sitting by the grandfather's ham radio listening to the various events being talked about around the country. While they were speculating on who all Ronald was bringing with him, they figured that Ronald and his girlfriend Kim made up the original two of his group. Whether some of the other 12 were members of her family or people they had met along the way, they couldn't fathom out for sure. They were sure other than two girls that he had to have rescued. I can't remember what I put in there. I gotta figure this out again. Let me put it here. TEAs. Feature today. Let me see what I can find here from this here. Control F. Traumatized by a biker gang. Yes, there we go. Control C and Control V. Other than hang on, I'm just trying to figure out how to rework this wording here. Yeah, well, that works. Yeah. The others, they figured were not his family because they couldn't see them leaving his father's horse ranch in Kentucky to come all the way out west. No, they reasoned they had to be Kim's family and some they rescued after they left his bug out place. But then again, if Kim's family were going to come, then they should have been included in Ronald's original plan. No, they must have had a plan of their own with their own shelter location. They had to be some people that Ronald had rescued and deemed necessary to bring with them. The possibilities were mind-boggling. Were mind-boggling to them. The big questions were is how much could they be trusted? Would they pull their own weight? Could they keep their location a secret and not try to bring in others? And would they try to take over their farm? As much as we need Ronald to help us, Becky began slowly, we need to take precautions to protect ourselves. We need to protect ourselves from those he has added to his group until we know they can. Till we know that we can trust everyone. Agreed, David said with a resolute tone. I hate having to do it, but I think one or two of us that Ronald doesn't know about needs to go to ground and stay hidden as a backup plan to rescue us if some of those in his group go rogue on us. That sounds like a good idea. The question is who? Who indeed, Dave sighed. I don't remember if we mentioned our siblings to him. I shorted our numbers when I emailed him, Becky smiled. What'd you say? I took one number off each family for the total. I didn't give individual family numbers. Numbers, just the total for the group. That was smart, Dave exclaimed. We have to figure out who would be best for it. The twins, Becky said quickly. Susie is such a tomboy and an expert hunter, and Thomas is plain sneaky. And they do seem to have some sort of psychic connection. That always creeped me out when they would talk in half sentences and know exactly what the other meant. Yeah, that should help them out in their observations, Dave smiled. And they would just love it. Now we just need to get our parents to agree to it. Hang on here. All right. Um, okay. All right. I need to, okay, we're at 89. So let me go down here to the cast, drop down. Mm. Okay. Susie and Tom are 16. Marjorie's 15. Okay, I got to look at some things here. Okay, there's that. Good. Gas back down here real quick. Actually, all right. So Tom is the youngest, and Thomas and Susie. Okay. So, and it's Dave's brother and sister are the twins, right? Yeah. Susie and Thomas. So I need to take this up to. Hang on. Hang on. Where was I at here? Dang it. 98. Okay. It's not Susie the tomboy and Tom, yeah, Susie and Tom. Okay, got it right. Okay, got that figured out there, folks. And so the next one's agree. I need to figure this thing here out here. Well, Oops, sorry, had the mic muted when I was talking to grandson there. So I got it. They were planning out who's going to stay hidden from Ronald's group, and they show up just in case there are some bad actors in Ronald's group. All right. So they picked out the twins and Heather, who's the other one that's old enough that Ronald hasn't met yet. We should present the plan to Grandpa Jack first to get him on board. Then we can get the others to agree to it, Dave sighed. If we can't convince Grandpa Jack, then we don't have much of a chance with the others. You got that right, came Grandpa Jack's voice from behind him. Geez, Becky shouted as she jumped halfway out of her chair. Grandpa, are you trying to give me a heart attack? Well, I could say that's what you get for trying to be sneaky, Grandpa Jack smiled. Hang on. It's not supposed to be a capital smile. There we go. Smiled broadly, sound next to him. Now, I only caught part of your plan, so so why don't you run it by, why don't you give me the rundown on the whole thing? I think Danny gave me whatever cold he has. Got phlegm building up my throat now. As they're approaching Twin Falls, Jack noticed a familiar-looking semi-tractor trailer rig gaining on him through the ash that was on the highway. Well, I'll be damned. That looks like Danny's rig coming up on us. Tilly leaned forward and looked back in the side mirror. Yep, that's Danny. I wonder where he's headed. Well, I aim to find out right now. Jack reached over and grabbed the mic for the CB radio and keyed it up. Breaker 19 for Daddy Daycare. Is that blue suede shoes I see at my back door? Come on. After a few seconds, the reply came, for sure, good buddy. This is the one and only blue suede shoes coming back at you. Why don't you switch over to Sean's birthday and we'll talk there? All right, give me a few seconds to warm it up. I'll see you there. A minute later, Danny's voice came over the ham radio frequency that matched Sean's birthday. UNC. Hey, Uncle Jack. Hang on a minute. That's a capital. It's got to be capitalized. Hi, Uncle Jack. How's the family doing? Not bad. How about you and Debbie? Debbie's no longer part of my life. Concern washed over Tilly, and it showed heavily in her voice. Oh no, what happened? I came home early from a run to surprise her. His voice cracked as he stopped for a few seconds. And I surprised her, all right, her and the neighbor's teenage son in my bed. So I called the cops and they hauled her off for statutory rape. I put her stuff in a storage facility and sold the house and everything else that I didn't need. Then the news about the asteroid broke, and I've been hauling nonstop ever since. I'm sorry that didn't work out for you and Debbie, Tilly offered. Aunt Tilly, you're one of the few people that actually mean that, even though you said she wasn't right for me. I wouldn't wish that hurt on anyone, Tilly replied soulfully. Oh, ow, dang. All right, hang on. I got to get some ibuprofen. It's killing my shoulder. My shoulder's killing me. Oh, man. I know, Danny sighed. Then he asked, "So where are you guys heading to? I saw you pull out of Actually, I need to change this around. I talked about this. I talked to myself about this earlier when I was reading through it. Um,
I thought for now.
uh, and that behind that. All right. I need to get boy something to eat. He's saying he's hungry, so I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back. I had to put some food on the stove for the grandsons. Got my timer set, so in 4.5 minutes, I got to go back in there and check on it and serve them up. Okay. Let me put that right. Piece of crap. All right. Okay, so I got this corrected here. So I know Danny sighed. Then he asked, I saw you pull out a Winnemucca and have been playing catch up ever since. I lost you when I got caught behind that wide load modular home. But I found you when you pulled off at Wells. But with, hang on, with down TRA traffic and the EU bunch up at that four-way stop. Couple slow movers got between us, and it took me a while to get around them. So where are you guys headed to? That's sort of classified, Tilly said cautiously. Classified? Danny asked, puzzled. Jack held out his hand for Tilly to give him the mic. Hey, Danny, what are you hauling? Well, I was headed towards the U.S. Foods Vegas Las Vegas warehouse with a load from the Reno warehouse when the big quake hit Vegas and the valley liquefied and sank and everything sank. What big earthquake? 2 days ago. The entire Las Vegas Valley broke up, and with the H huge rainstorm, there we go. 2 days ago, the entire Las Vegas Valley broke up with uh, okay, hang on a second. Oh, lost people. Okay. Save. Pin comment. Okay. All right. Hang on. Be right back. Okay. Oh, boys are fed. And so they're having some sort of like a knockoff, a generic version of Chef Boyardee beefy noodles, not beefy noodles, yeah, beef and noodles and tomato sauce. So yeah, they they just snarf that stuff. I won't be I will be surprised if they don't ask for another can here in a little bit. All right, so where was that over here? This up on there. Two days at a time broke up during the EA Earth UU earthquake. The earthquake broke up the entire Las Vegas Valley during a huge rainstorm that had been all of that sand turned to quicksand, and all of the freeway access routes were destroyed. No one can get in or out right now. I called the Reno warehouse. They said not to come back. When I called them, there were rioters around the place. They just said head east. East where? I don't know. Hang on, comma. They got cut off before they could say where, Danny said disgustedly. I've been this I changed it here. I changed this to Winnemucca. Hang on here. Control C down here to the Winnemucca, trying to figure out what I was going to do when I saw you drive through. And took off after you. So what do you have? Cases of food in number 10 cans. How much? The trailer's packed full, Danny said with some pride. Stay close and on this channel. We'll be back with you in a minute. Jack picked up the handheld. Come on. Damn it. Undo. The handheld radio that Lee had given him to talk to Ronald's group with, and called Ronald privately. PR. Called Ronald. Ronald, Jack here. Go ahead. Jack explained what happened in Vegas, who Danny was, and who Danny was. And that his load from U.S. Foods was all number 10 cans of food. So he is a MIA shipment for now. If things keep going downhill as fast as they currently are, his load, like my Walmart shipment, will never be missed. They will presume he got hijacked or seized by some local sheriff. Why do you say that? Ronald asked, puzzled, having not heard anything on the ham radio, or having heard anything from Lee, who is also scanning ham frequencies. On the upper bands of CB radio, some of the truckers are putting out that certain towns to stay away from. Why haven't you said anything? Ronald practically yelled. Because none of them are anywhere near us, and I didn't want you to get worried. It's my job to worry. It's my job to worry right now, Ronald fumed. And just because you haven't heard of any town that's on our route doesn't mean they aren't doing that. They could be sneakier about surprising the truck drivers and taking them down before they can get a message out. I didn't think about that. I'm sorry, Jack stammered, obviously shaken at his mistake. Lee. Hang on here. hang on, Lee called out on the radio. Go ahead, she replied. Gooding is the second town we have to go to. Gooding is the second town we have to go through after Twin Falls. Check to see if we can go around it, and where we have back. Monitor those CB bands and see if Window, Gooding, or Fairfield are being mentioned. We don't have much time to work. We don't have much time to work our way around them if they are. Copy that, Jack said, the frustration heavy in his voice. And tell Danny to get a lot closer to your bumper to spike the ash on the road. 10-4. Turning to Kim, Ronald said, I need you to check maps on Wendell and see what ways there are around that just in case. Already on it, she said with a smile. I didn't want to go through Gooding anyway, so I mapped out a route around it in Wendell. Ronald shook his head with a smile and said, have I told you that I love you? Not enough. Well, I do, very much so. Ronald keyed the radio. Lee, disregard looking for an alternative route. Kim already has one. Copy that. Do you want us to drop back behind Danny and take rear guard? Affirmative on that. Scan back with a scope and see if any other trucks or vehicles are following us from a distance. Copy that. Ronald thought as he nodded as he thought a few seconds, then asked Kim, where to? Just keep hang on, you switch this around here, make it work right. All right, let's fix this up. West. Past Wendell and get off at Turtle. That's exit 147. Then head back east and we'll jog north to Shoestring Road and follow it back east towards State Route 46 for about 2 miles, then head north on South 1500 East. Follow that for 4 miles and cross over US 26 and go for another mile, then turn right on East 1800 South. That'll put us 3.5 miles east of Gooding, still out in the past Gooding, still out in the farmlands, she said with a smile. Ronald thought for a few seconds as he pictured the route as she described it in his mind. Okay, then where to? He asked to clarify the route. After 1.5 miles on East 1800 South, we turn north on 1625 East Road. We'll follow that for 2 miles, turn right on East 1600 South, and 2.5 miles we'll turn north on State Route 46. That'll put us 1.5 miles north of Gooding, and it's a straight shot to US 20. That sounds like a good route if they are stopping trucks for their haul. We should be skirting outside of the roadblocks. And if they try to chase us, a few sniper shots will take out their vehicles. When Kim relayed the message to everyone, Danny came on. Don't go that way. Stay on US 93 North. The only town is laid back and it's quicker. Shoshone is small, and 93 is almost residential all the way through it. Are you sure, Ronald asked, if you're going to US 20 and the turnoff is east of Fairfield, then it's just then there is just the town of Shoshone. Shoshone. All right, then we'll try that way, Ronald said. 35 minutes they were pulling out of Shoshone. US 93 turned into State Route 65 in the middle of Shoshone. And like Danny said, it was residential most of the way. Uncle Jack, do you think it's going to get and stay as bad as they're talking about on the radio? All right. I've got a couple more people came in, guys. Please, like it says down below and says at the top of the comments, please say hi and hit the thumbs up. Oh, and we're on subscriber mode because of the trolls. So yeah, you only just gotta wait 5 minutes before you make a comment. All right, see, Ronald is the expert. He thinks so. Hell, it was that bad when he rescued us at the campground. Jack shuddered at what almost happened to his family. With everything going wrong so far, things being much worse than what the government predicted. I believe him that society is going to break down badly because of the lack of water, food, heat, and power. Well, that could be. Danny mused, holding out hope that it wouldn't. Holding out hope that it wouldn't. Could be. Damn, boy, you heard about those towns are already seizing loads of truckers. Jack shook his head at his nephew's lack of vision. And the winter isn't even on us yet. Just imagine what's going to happen when people who didn't listen, listen, and stock up on food for the winter and spring. All right. Just imagine what's going to happen when the people who didn't listen and stock up on food for the winter and spring start to starve and freeze in a couple months. I just didn't think that things would become as bad as they do in those Armageddon movies. Well, they are. I'm just glad that we have a place to go to, and your parents are not around to deal with this. Danny thought about his mother who had contracted a deadly virus in a blood transfusion for minor surgery, and she passed the virus on to his dad before they knew that she was infected. Both his parents had succumbed to the deadly virus within 3 months of his mom's transfusion. The only good thing that came out of the whole situation was that the hospital was quick and generous to settle with the family to keep the incident quiet and out of the news. The family being Danny and his sister Beth, who was in Ohio working as an executive manager for some billionaire. She insisted that Danny take all the settlement as far as she felt that no, take all the settlement as she felt that he needed it and she didn't. Danny almost blew the money on a stock market investment, but his aunt had convinced him to pull it out. 2 days later, that stock dropped to $3 a share. Danny had paid $75 when he bought it and got $92 when he sold it on his aunt's urging. Realizing that he had almost lost it all, he asked his aunt for her advice on what to do with the money. She had introduced him to the money manager that she and Jack used to set up their retirement accounts. Soon he had a modest house paid for, as well as the big rig he now drove. The rest of his money was diversified and earning a steady income for his retirement, ACCOU, and his retirement account. Then he had caught his fiance with the neighbor's son, sold the house, making a large profit on it and most of his belongings, and bought gold and silver coins and bars because he wasn't sure what else to do with the money at the time. As it turned out, it was a smart deal. Aunt Tilly, Danny asked. Go ahead, she replied. Do you think that Beth will be all right? I know she's staying with her boss's family survival group in Eastern Ohio, but Danny choked as he struggled for the right words. She should be fine. I checked the group out as best I could. Those that I could find out about are good people. She's a strong woman, and she should be able to deal with it. She should be able to deal with this with her group. I hope so. Danny said softly. What you need to worry about is minding your P's and Q's with these friends of Ronald's. He's sticking his neck out, bringing us along, so don't speak out of turn. You catch my drift? Yes, Aunt Tilly. Good. 45 minutes later, they were pulling up to the location on Deer Creek Road that Dave had said he would meet them at. There was no sign of anyone that had been driving on these roads for a while. Ronald based that on the coverage of ash on them. At first, Ronald didn't see anyone around. Then he noticed a figure under the branches of one of the trees. It was leaning against the trunk of the tree and not moving. Eyes open, people. We're being watched from the trees, Ronald said softly into his mic. Kim lifted up the binoculars and focused on the figure. When she zoomed in, she noticed it was just stuffed clothing with a hat on it. We have a scarecrow, not a lookout, Kim said as she scanned the surrounding trees. The hairs began to stand up on the back of his neck when he saw two gray Polaris Ranger EVs coming down the road. Give me the binoculars, Ronald said quickly. Kim handed him the binoculars, and he focused on the approaching ATV EVs on the approaching ATV quads. A smile crossed his face when he saw Becky Stanton waving from the from the front passenger seat of the lead ATV. Okay, folks, it looks like our escorts are here to guide us the rest of the way in. Cheers of happiness and sighs of relief answered Ronald's announcement. They followed Becky and Karen as they led them to their family compound. In a half an hour, they reached the compound, and Grandpa met with Ronald, and they discussed those in Ronald's group and what supplies and skills they brought with them. Ronald got the shipping manifest to the two trailers and sat down with Grandpa Jack. After 20 minutes of reviewing the manifest, Grandpa Jack came to the conclusion they now had over over 10 years worth of food for everyone without supplementing it with food raised on the compound land. Hang on. Or counting Danny's load. His load would add at least 5 to 6 years, depending if they could use some of the more odd food supplies like nacho cheese sauce, Martino cherries, enchilada sauce, 200 cases of powdered juice flavor mix, peppers, olives, and other add-ons. Then Grandpa Jack welcomed Ronald's group to the family compound and directed him hang on, I guess click it. To get the trucks and trailers into one of the barns to keep them and their contents out of the weather and out of sight of anyone who might come to the compound. Okay, where we're at here. 8. How far away is not chapter 9? Okay, it's 110. All right. Ronald stood looking at the two 53-foot trailers and one 14-foot trailer that had been backed into one of the barns of the compound. Their loads of food and other supplies were being cataloged as they were unloaded and divided amongst the various buildings of the compound. Supplies have been added to the buy-in for staying at the Stanton family compound by. Hang on a minute. Is that the proper spelling? Control F. Yep, that's the proper spelling. By Jack Bauer's family and by Jack Bauer's family and his wife's nephew, Danny. Allowing Jack and his family to join with him was really turning into a godsend. If they remained so, if they remained so, comma, time would tell. Jack's load had 2 pallets of prescription pharmaceuticals and 3 pallets of general pain relievers, cold and allergy medications, and hygiene supplies. There were a couple pallets of cargo pants and one of winter coats. Some would not fit anyone until children were born and growing up. The winter coats would be most useful in the next couple of months. When the storing of supplies was done, only one of the 53-foot trailers had any supplies left in it. These were stacked along one side so they were easily accessible, and they were mostly the clothing items and other non-perishable items. Since Jack's family lived out of the huge sleeper on his truck, and Danny did the same, the remaining 53-foot trailer was set aside for Jody's family, including Natalie and Judy, to stay in. Ron and Kim took their including Lee. Okay. Ronald and Kim took their 14-foot trailer. They were all lucky that Jack's Walmart shipment also included stock. There were strings of LED lights, extension cords, inline switches, and a dozen quartz heaters that looked like little fireplaces. With the extension cords, they were able to run power to the trailers and sleeper cabs. The sleeper cabs had power inverters that allowed them to plug into regular AC power outlet or a generator. Several strings of LED Christmas lights were strung in the 3 trailers so they'd have lights. They put 2 of the heaters in the trailer that Jody's family was in and 1 in Ronald's. If they needed more as the winter came, they would add more of the heaters. Grandpa Jack suggested they start stacking bales of hay next to the trailers to give them more insulation. So while Dan and Robert Stanton built stairs for the built permanent Okay, let's see what this one here comes up with. Did I get it right? F7. Enduring and perpetual everlasting. Yeah, got it right. Built permanent stairs for the 3 trailers. Everyone else worked on moving the bales of hay over, working on moving bales of hay over the trailer, over to the trailers, and stack them pyramid style around them. When they were done, only one back door for for each 50 foot trailer was visible. and the side door for the thing. Hang on, let me switch this here. There we go. Was still visible. They laid out a layer of 2x in various widths on top of the trailers, and then sheets of plywood on top of that. Then they topped that with layers of hay bales. With the lights in the trailers, with the lights hung in the trailers, they divided them up into rooms. They divide them up into rooms, and everyone picked a spot to set up their sleeping bags. Ken realized they would need some lights for the stairs if they weren't going to use up their supply of batteries on flashlights. When they were just about finished stringing more LED Christmas lights around the doors and steps to the trailers, Sue Stanton called for everyone to come to dinner in the main house. Okay. Mm-hmm. Hang on here. Okay, just checking something there. And let's see here. What else we got here on this thing here? Just want to make sure that a couple little things here just to see if it changes the number up there. Okay, see, it still seems to be hanging on. Sue had Pete and Jess pull out all the table leaves add to the big table and set up several plastic folding tables and chairs. Set up several of the plastic folding tables and chairs they use for parties and other big events. Terry, Ashley, and Lisa were helping Sue in the kitchen, setting out plates, napkins, glasses, and such. Some of the family stopped at their cabins to wash up. Some washed in the barn's summer kitchen, and others hurried to the main house and used the sinks there to get cleaned up, and then jumped in, help finishing setting up for dinner. The 11 younger children and those who are under 18, the 11 younger children, those who are under 18, were seated at two of the folding tables. The other 25 adults were squeezed in snugly around the big oak table. Dinner was served with buffet style from two more folding tables. The twins, Susie and Thomas, and and Heather H. E-A-T, Heather, were staying out of sight and eating in the kitchen. Uh, get it more secluded here. The twins, Susie and Thomas, and Heather were staying out of sight and eating in one of the bedrooms upstairs. Jody made sure that Judy and Natalie were seated at the closest place to place to the big table. That way, she had the closest spot to the table they were at. The girls were still very anxious with all the new people around, but with Jody behind them, right at the next table, and Lucy Wilson on one side of them, and Sean Bauer on the other, they were coping and beginning to feel safe again. What's up, messy chair? Sounds like we made a nice little step. Yep, they did. All right. All right. It's almost 2 hours here. I can hear the boys in there making noise. I'm going to wrap this up here now, and we're going to finish off tomorrow. This is, this last couple chapters have been adding a lot to it, so they're a little bit longer than I thought they were going to be. And we've been making corrections and stuff. So we're going to, hang on, let me go here and hang on. Let me first go ahead and highlight this here. So that's where we're coming back at, page 106. And I'm going to hit save. And there I am. I'm going to need to, there we go. All right. So I've been putting out a couple of, I think that thing really, come on, Cameron, work right. There we go. I've been putting out a bunch of the videos I've recorded from the city council meeting here on Gray Man Prepping. They're in the local government folder if you want to go watch all the playlists. But I put out one late last night and one early this morning. I'll probably put out 2 tomorrow, and that should get. And then on Wednesday, I'll put up the final 2, bringing this up current on city council member meetings for 2025 here. Monday night on Camp Patton Family Compound, that's tomorrow night. The topic is canning ham, but it's more than just canning ham. It's ham, bacon, pork chops, canning, freezing, other forms of preserving the meats and stuff. And then, of course, Monday through Friday at noon Mountain Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Time, I'll be editing more of the novels here. And let me get the lineup here. Tuesday, here on Gray Man Prepping, for Tactical Tuesday, Life's Uncertainty, update your succession plans, which means your will, your family living trust, any S corps you have for protecting property, LLCs, and stuff like that. Friday is hang on, I did that wrong. No, I started reading it wrong. Okay. Thursday night will be the Midnight Ride at 10 o'clock Eastern. Friday on Camp Patton Family Compound, you might be a homesteader if, and you guys come up with ideas to throw in there. make some funny ones too. Throw in there. You might be a homesteader if whatever. You have possum pot pie, stuff like that. Next Saturday, after the Mississippi fault splits, what are your plans? And that's what we got coming up for the next week here. Starting Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll be doing editing Tawaki Times Saga, Blood Moon Falling, the first book in that 3-book series. And hopefully by the time I get done editing that one, I will have Scout and the Ninja Part 2 finished, and we'll finish editing that one, and then finishing editing Running Against the Wind, that one as well. All right, everyone. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. And I got some other videos I'm going to be posting this afternoon on the tree takedown across the street. High speed. It's less than 8 minutes, so they won't be sticking ads in the middle of it. It's really high speed, so it'll be over quick for you guys. All right. So take care, and I will see you tomorrow morning.